Welcome to the Petcast, brought to you by leading pet charity Blue Cross. So, as you know, I share my life with my beloved Poppy dog, and I think I know what she needs and wants, but do I? Do any of us know what our pets are telling us?
There's all sorts of different tools that you can sort of use, and really it is about spending the time observing and getting to know your dog.
In this episode, Loose Women's Kaye Adams joins me to help me pick the brains of Kayleigh Hill, who works in the rehoming team at Blue Cross. She'll help us work out what each little habit or quirk actually means.
Are we kidding ourselves, or are there different dogs / breeds that are more intelligent?
What is our definition of intelligent, I guess?
You've dodged the question.
No.
And this is what we do on the Petcast. Have candid conversations around the big issues facing pet lovers like me and you, with some of the UK's leading pet experts who are on hand to give us their best tips, tricks and guidance. Kayleigh, welcome back to the Petcast, and welcome to you, Kaye, too. Lovely having you on. I've been really looking forward to this episode because we've researched some of the most asked questions on the internet, and I've got loads of questions too. As you know, Poppy Dog has got a list of ailments. Kaye, I'm sure you've got a load of questions. So,
absolutely.
Kayleigh, I hope you are ready for this. Kaye, firstly, tell us about your dog.
Oh, my dog Bee, who, funnily enough, is out for a walk with my partner, which is very unusual because I am the dog walker in the family. When we first got the dog, it was like, who's going to walk the dog? But it actually has become one of the great loves of my life, going out walking with the dog. It's really, really strange. I mean, I don't have any other hobbies particularly apart from sort of spinning around frenetically, but taking the dog out for the walk is just a joy. So she's a cockapoo. Her name is Bee. She's now 7. I call her my menopausal old lady. She's just like her mummy. We have dropped into that strange kind of language that we use with each other. And she's the sweetest natured dog. She really is. And I guess everyone says that about their dog, don't they? But she really is. She's a joy. And, you know, through these kind of difficult times that we've had recently, and I think a lot of people have said the same thing, you know, that their pet, whether it's a dog or another pet, that they can just kind of be calm with and not discuss what's going on in the outside world, but just, you know, spend a bit of, you know, time with. It's been, you know, a real blessing.
And lovely, I found as well. Yeah, exactly. When we only had to do that hour of exercise, you know, it was lovely just to go out and with Poppy Dog. I've got a 12-and-a-half-year-old Parsons Russell who's with me there. Again, miserable like her mum. And but you know, it was really nice, that escapism and joy to sort of go out walking, because I think if I just went out walking on my own, it just wouldn't have been the same.
Yeah, no, it's a funny thing, isn't it? Before I had a dog, I never went out just for a walk.
No.
You know, I mean, I would walk from A to B or whatever, but you wouldn't go for an aimless walk. You'd feel a bit of a weirdo, to be honest, which is ridiculous. But with the dog, you've got a purpose, you know, which is, I'm walking my dog. But of course, there's 4 of us in the family, you know, during the whole kind of lockdown period. So poor Bee was exhausted because everybody
saw that lead come out. Not again.
Oh, not again. She's as fit as she's ever been.
Yeah, I think Poppy is actually, and I think it's funny. I think she's in her old age. She isn't walking as far as and she doesn't play with the ball as much. But I think going out more and more with her, her fitness levels has got better. I guess that is a fact, isn't it, Kayleigh? That it's like us, isn't it? We get better at, and our muscles get stronger.
This is it. Yeah, I think certainly when we have seen the opposite as well, where because people are around the house more and they themselves are going in and out the kitchen cupboards more, they're feeding dogs treats at the same time. So I think it's as long as it's balanced with the healthy diet, then the fitness of a lot of dogs has really improved.
It is interesting that though, isn't it? Because my colleague and friend on Loose Women, Nadia Sawala, actually she's 2 dogs, but one of them is the half sister of my dog Bee. And they've got very different markings, but they're similar in personality and everything. But Chi-Chi would run all day. It's busy, run. Whereas Bee in the house is really placid. And she was saying to me, why is this? You know, they're virtually sisters. And I did ask a friend of mine, and Kayleigh, I'd be really interested to get your thoughts on this friend of mine who's a doggy person. And he said, well, And this is true, Nadia would take Chi-Chi out all the time to tire her out. So run, chuck the ball, run. And he said, basically, she's training an athlete. So instead of sort of tiring her out, she's building her fitness, and the dog just wants to run all the time. Is that the way it works?
Yeah, I think they do. They get up to that level, and then they need that to have the outlet, that stimulation, and because the reserves are there, and absolutely they need some way of burning it off. So yeah, it's like you sort of create that for yourself, which works brilliantly. Some people, that's what they want from the dog, and but for others, it can get to a point where it's too much. It depends a lot on the breed as well. I think if they're a working breed and they've been bred that trait for them to work for long endurance periods, then that's going to be very easy to bring out of them.
Well, she regrets it, I tell you.
Yeah, I bet. Kayleigh, I've got a question. So when I speak to Poppy sometimes, and especially if I say, do you want to go walkies? No? Did you hear that? No, she didn't. It's okay. She sort of does this yawn, and then she does this cry like that. That's nice for the listeners. What does that mean?
So this is an interesting one. I think yawning in dogs there's different theories out there. Sometimes it's that they're kind of anticipating something. So in this case, that would make sense with the walk. In other situations, they can do it as a way of almost trying to diffuse the tension of a situation if they feel a little bit of conflict about something. But I think in the situation that you've described there, especially with that little vocalization afterwards, it's that anticipation, knowing that something she's going to really enjoy is about to happen, and it's almost a way of it's just expressing that excitement, I think.
She's happy. That's the main thing. Does B do anything, Kaye, like really sort of weird? Because how much? I just think Poppy knows everything I say.
Well, I say the same thing, but I mean, I think that means we're overindulgent owners, really, aren't we? But I mean, there's certainly certain cue words. I mean, when I say walking, she loves walking, so she will very immediately become alert, and she's waiting for the lead, and she's ready to go. She loves her walk, so that's pretty obvious. She's good on dinner. When she wants her dinner, she'll come and she'll sit beside me and do a little. She's like a pigeon. And I'll say, do you want your dinner? And then she'll head downstairs. So she's pretty good that way. There's a couple of things that she does, and I know this is really common, and lots of different dogs do it. But if she's in the house and I come home, or anyone comes home actually, and she's excited to see us, she gets quite frantic that she needs to find either a sock or a shoe or a slipper or something that she can get in
and
her
show
mouth
you.
And show.
Yeah.
And, she won't just come and jump up. She needs to go get that thing.
Yes.
And you can see her go, I don't have a thing. I don't have a thing. So I don't know. What is there? Sort of go back to hunting days or something?
I would say with her breed, she's got those Cocker Spaniel genes in there. They've been selectively bred to do that retrieving for us. So certainly that's going to play a big part. But also I think a lot of other dogs would do it too if it's something that previously they've been given attention for in some way, and we might have rewarded that at some point, if we're encouraging a game of fetch. And they do seem more likely to do it when they are excited. So in that situation where you're first coming home, they're more excited, aren't they? And they want to bring something to please you and as something to do. The thing is, if we encourage them and praise them for bringing a toy to us, how do we get them to distinguish between a shoe that's maybe not supposed to have in the mouth and that visitors might not be so happy about? And in that case, the best way to manage it is only have things available that you are okay with them getting and bringing in, and put the other things so that they just don't have that opportunity.
We do not have a pair of matched shoes in the entire house. Every single one of us, when we're going out. So we put on one shoe and it's like, where's my other shoe? I mean, it's just every single day. And, obviously in previous times with my kids, when I'd have tons of teenagers just in all the time, not anymore, unfortunately. And they would all come in very, politely, and they'd leave their shoes at the door. And so I would come home at night and there'd be like 10 pairs of shoes. But of course, then they would be going home and it's like, where's my Air Force trainers? Where's my shoe? Where's my shoe? Because B had been all over the place with his shoes in the garden, all around.
Poppy is obsessed with this. I don't know about B. Rolling in poo.
No, she
On our
never
work.
does.
You lucky
Never
thing. I
does.
can't believe it. You lucky thing.
She's a clean queen.
What? Why?
Well, this is something. There's quite a few theories out there on this one. None of which are really proven. I mean, but it's funny. Some dogs don't do it at all, and others it seems to be this really instinctive urge in them. Yeah, and they will just. I know our first family dog would be particularly drawn to fox poo, and it seemed to be that over anything else. And the smell is just so difficult to then get rid of. It can be quite difficult for owners to manage that.
It is. It's vile, isn't it? And the stench, and Poppy always seems to do it when she knows I'm heading to work or I've got to be somewhere. So she'd do it, and then of course I've got to bring her home and I've got to bath her, and there's no quick way to get rid of it, or is there? Because it is tomato ketchup supposed to be quite good.
I heard that, funnily enough.
Oh, I can't say I have heard that one, so I wouldn't like to sort of vouch for its effectiveness either way, but it's not going to do any harm.
Oh, that's all right then. But,
do you know what I would love to know is, do dogs have road sense? I mean, well, I can say, first of all, B has no road sense whatsoever. I mean, if a 40-ton truck was coming down the road at 60 miles an hour, she'd just walk out.
Oh, my God.
It baffles me. I mean, I would never, ever let her off the lead. I mean, some people have got the dogs really well trained, and you see them walking along the street, a busy street, with the dog off the lead. And I just go, oh my God.
It does still fill me with concern, that, because I think even the most well-trained dog, as you say, they don't have that level of understanding in them to know the potential of colliding with a car is going to be, maybe even fatal for them. They don't have that understanding.
Because you see cats will run across a road and they'll try and dodge a car.
Yeah.
They seem to, I don't know what they're sort of thinking. But with B, as I say, it's just no concept whatsoever.
So I think you're doing exactly the right thing there. We would always advise keep them secure on a lead anywhere where there may be traffic. But the thing as well is there's always a situation where they may get free. And so in that instance, if you've done the preparation work with the training to train a really good stop cue, that can really save their life in a situation where even if they're distracted by something, you want to build that into the training where there are distractions so that they still will listen to that when you ask for a stop. And it's an automatic thing for them, because, you just never know when that might save their life.
I just wish, Poppy, when she was a lot younger, if she was off the lead in the woods or, somewhere different or a new area that I didn't know, if she saw a cat, she's gone. And that is, and you can, it's almost like they have that red mist, don't they? And so they might know the word leave is for Poppy to stop, but no, not happening.
Yeah, that's why it's really important in the training to build up and up and up gradually the level of distraction. There's no point asking for that straight away when it's not totally inbuilt into them, because, as you say, all of the other adrenaline and that chase mode just overrides the other systems in that scenario.
Do they get to an age where they become very difficult to train to that level? If you haven't done it when they are a puppy.
I think the age thing is more about what they would be comfortable with and see as potentially fearful or not. I think in terms of the things that we can train them, you can start to build that in at any age. So I think if an animal is, say they were never exposed to traffic or roads when they were in what we call the critical socialization period, when they're young puppies, then it can be really hard to remove that fear of something that they've not learned to accept as being okay. But if we're talking about teaching a cue like a stop cue, then I think it's just the amount of time that you're able to give to that. Different dogs will pick it up at different paces, whatever age. It depends a bit on the breed and their individual personality too.
Do you know how you get some people who say, oh, my dog's very intelligent? Oh, she's very intelligent. Very, 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 very intelligent. Such an intelligent dog. I mean, are we kidding ourselves on there? Or are there different dogs / breeds that are more intelligent?
What is our definition of intelligent, I guess?
You've dodged the question there.
No. It depends. I mean, I would always look back to what have they been bred to do, because that influences so much. So if we're saying that it's intelligent if they can, like we said before, do a really good retrieve for us, then we might interpret that a Cocker Spaniel's really intelligent, picks that up because they pick that up quickly, when actually it's because we've bred for that characteristic for however many years. One that we've bred for companionship, like a Cavalier, might take a while longer to do that. But there is bound to be differences in level of intelligence too, of course.
I think I'm one of those annoying people, actually, Kaye. I go, oh yeah, I've got a very bright dog. I swear she can tell the time. I swear she knows it's 3:30. Well, when I was away on tour, my mum had Poppy, and she would say, oh, I think she was a nightmare, so spoilt her. So she would feed Pops at 3:30, which I said was far too early, Mum, for having dinner then. But no, she's hungry. And she knows, Emma, she says she knows it's 3:30. She can tell the time because she comes up to Mum and says it's ready and it's dinner time. Do you reckon that she's right?
They are such creatures of routine, I think, and they really do well with routine. So if you will build that routine in and something goes different from that, they will let you know about it for sure.
She does.
We see that time and time again. My parents' dog is fed 3 times a day, and it gets to the middle feed 12 o'clock, and it's almost to the minute. It is uncanny. And yeah, their body clock, the routine, it's definitely there.
Kayleigh, I've got a bit of an embarrassing question. What to do when Poppy will continuously bark at either a cyclist, somebody in high vis. I don't know, Kaye, have you got any issues with what B doesn't like and starts barking?
Well, only one tiny thing, actually, because she's not a barker really at all, apart from sometimes with the dogs next door. But this tends to be a winter thing. If we were out for a walk and it's winter and, people are kind of bundled up with heavy coats and things, it would be a guy, like a man with a big coat and a black hat. If he was to come over and to pet B, very nicely, not to be threatening, hello, blah, blah, blah. She just doesn't like it. And she would start barking and sort of back away behind me. And it's very distinctive. It's a bloke with a sort of covered head.
Gosh, that is.
It's very weird. Very weird, because she never barks at people, ever.
Hats are a fairly common one, actually, with dogs. And I think it's something that because it changes the silhouette of us to almost, I think, so that they're not even sure whether we're people that in the same way that they're usually used to. So it's usually probably because that they're a bit unsure that the barking's happening, and it's a way of expressing, I don't really know what's going on here and I'm a little bit worried, and this is my way of vocalizing that. So we do sort of recommend to people if when they have younger puppies, when they're doing all of that socialization training with them, exposing them to lots of different things, people in hats is one of the things we'd say to cover off with that, so that they do learn during that critical period that if it's introduced in a way where it's positive and not scary, they're accepting of that throughout life more readily then.
God.
But can we stop her from doing that? Can we?
Yeah, I think that what I'd say is the thing not to do, and what people tend to do in these situations, is to sort of maybe rush over and make a fuss about it, even if that's in a kind of, no, what are you doing? Stop barking. And that to a dog is still attention. And so we might be inadvertently, again, actually reinforcing, because they may even pick up that, oh, mum's worried about this too. This is something I should be worried about. And actually it'll exaggerate it in the future, potentially.
Yeah, I'm at fault there, because if somebody, especially during lockdown, your deliveries were happening quite often, and anyone in the high vis and Pops go out, and I'd be like, Poppy, come back, Poppy, and then shouting and saying, it's okay, she's not going to hurt you. And of course, I can hear it doing it now. My voice is higher. I sound panicky. So Poppy's going to be like, well, mum's agreeing with me there. So yeah.
Yeah. And that situation, what you're saying that the barking when someone knocks at the door is so common, isn't it? And we see it more and more now, because we're getting more online deliveries in the times that we're living. And people can sometimes think that's because they're not they're worried about the person at the door, or that they feel in some way aggressive towards them. But a lot of the time that might not be the case. It's just that we may have bred them to alert us to different noises, and so they're just communicating with us. When you think the barking, it can be seen as a real nuisance to us as people, but it's part of their way of communicating. Yeah. So it's a big ask of a dog for them, to stop that completely, isn't it?
I was waiting for her to get a bit funny with the masks, because obviously if she comes out in the car with me or whatever, and I've gone into a shop and I've had the mask on, and then I don't take it off until I'm sat in the car and she's looking at me, and I did actually think, is she a bit iffy about that? But touch wood, that hasn't happened. But I wonder if it has.
Well, we definitely in the rehoming centres within Blue Cross, we all the dogs that we had in our care, we built in a training program to gradually build them up to get them used to people in mass, because we did anticipate that for some that would be very similar to the people in hats or high vis, something different that could cause them to be worried.
We're talking about doggies a lot, but cats, what does it mean when they sort of like blink at you constantly?
The blinking, I remember the first time I sort of began to understand about cats blinking as a way of communicating was quite a revelation to me, because what you'll tend to notice it is if they're maybe relaxed on your knee and you do a slow blink at them, then they'll do that back at you, and it's a lovely way of having a little conversation with them. So
talking to you.
Yeah. I mean, eye contact for cats is actually something that's quite confrontational. So if they're staring at each other, it's a sign of a threat. So they tend to avoid staring at each other. What can happen is if there's something they're fearful of, they can almost get locked in, and it's like they're not able to look away from the thing that's causing them fear. So my cat, when somebody new comes to the house, he's quite nervous of anybody different. And the first thing he'll do is jump up on the fridge, which is sort of the highest surface he can find. And he'll stare intently at the person, and he can't move his head away from them. He's hyper alert. The pupils will dilate. And that's because he's worried. So as I say, the blinking is usually a really lovely communication tool. So I would say if you've got a cat, give that a try, and I can almost guarantee if they're relaxed and content, they'll do it right back at you.
Oh, I'm so doing that. That is so cute. What about when they're purring? Because I don't have a cat, but is that because they're happy? And the same with my dog. I think like she talks to me. She might be growling at me. She might be busy, but are they happy?
The purring typically does happen when they're feeling content. Yeah, you're right. And they're relaxed and content. And usually they'll often do it if they're, padding, like they'll pad when they're kittens and padding for the mum for milk. They can still do that on your knee when they're adult cats, and that will often be accompanied by a purr. But what surprises people actually is they can purr even when they're actually in pain as a way of self-soothing. So when I used to do veterinary consultations, sometimes a cat that was clearly in pain would still be purring, which is very unexpected.
So how did you distinguish then between a pain purr and a happy purr?
It really is. It's the same with looking at any one signal in isolation doesn't really tell you very much. So it's looking at the rest of the picture of what's going on, the context of the situation, and what the rest of the body language is telling us too. So if you have a cat that we've described who's padding your knee, seems very relaxed and is seeking affection, that's almost certainly going to be a content purr. If you've got a cat that's looking uncomfortable otherwise, maybe hunched or holding themselves in a position that they don't normally, and they're doing a purr that sometimes it can be almost, there's different types of purr, so you might notice it's a bit of a different pitch or intensity. That then the more time you spend around your animal, the more likely you are to pick up on those subtle differences. I know my cat will sometimes purr to elicit something from me, so it'll get higher in pitch and more intense and fast when she's actually not just trying to have a nice moment with me, but saying, fill the feed bowl up. And once I learned that, yeah, I can really hear the difference now. I listen out for it.
You were saying about being in pain. That's a question that I've been worried about Pops for a while. Well, there's always something wrong with my dog, bless her. But I always worry, is she actually in pain? Like, she was poisoned during lockdown. She went and she was ever so sick, and I thought I was going to lose her at one point. But she's got back to her sort of normal self. But I just wonder, is there a signs where I know that she's actually in pain?
There's all sorts of different tools that you can sort of use. And really, it is about spending the time observing and getting to know your dog so that you can pick up on any subtle differences. So say if we're talking about something like arthritis in dogs, you might find that it's something as subtle as not wanting to walk quite as far as they used to, or the play sessions, they'll initially be very excited, but then just can't quite keep up with it. Or people might find that they'll go from jumping in the back of the car themselves to still being there and wanting to go, but being hesitant and not appearing able to jump in. So yeah, it depends on what the underlying reason for the pain is as to how it might be expressed. But I think if you as an owner think there's something that I've noticed different here. So with a cat, for example, they sleep a lot anyway. They sleep 16 to 20 hours a day. But if you find that they're sleeping an awful lot more than usual, that could be because actually they're avoiding pain by being in the comfy bed. And it could be something as subtle as that you pick up on, that you then get checked out with your vet and could be arthritis. And then there are things that can be done to help make them more comfortable.
Why do dogs and cats sleep so much?
So, yeah, I think it's to do with the fact that they are that predatory species. So it makes sense for them to really conserve all their energy for that act of hunting to get their meal. So it's storing up all those reserves. So they've got that big bout of energy to hunt for their meal.
Is it a worrying sign? And if they wash themselves, both cats and dogs. So I know somebody that they've got a cat and they're constantly licking and they're losing their fur. Poppy suddenly again started to adopt that. So she's constantly licking her bottom as well a lot.
She's still flexible then.
Yeah. She hasn't got any arthritis, no.
So, I mean, with that situation, if she's licking around her back end like that, that can typically be associated with them having an anal gland problem, so that can get impacted. No. So it's worth checking that's not the cause. If it's a cat that's over grooming, I would firstly be asking, has anything changed in the environment recently that may be causing them some level of stress, because they can overgroom with stress, which is again quite a subtle thing. You might find that you think they're washing themselves a lot more than normal, but actually it's because they're itchy. So have a little look. Is it just generally all over, or is it targeted on one specific area? Have a feel of the skin in that area. Is there other stuff going on? Is there scabs in there? I mean, the most common reason that we see for itchiness in dogs and cats is a flea allergy, and you can't always see the fleas, evidence of the fleas on them, because the ones that react so severely, actually it might just take one bite and it's the saliva that they react to, and so it's not always obvious, but it's worth checking. Have you got a good flea prevention program going on?
We should move on to like smaller animals, I think. What about like bunnies? You see the in the cartoons, they're always stamping their feet. What does that mean in real life?
So the thumping of the feet, it can be a way of them demonstrating that they're frustrated about something, but actually more commonly it's a fear response. So it's a way that because they're a very social species, if they thump their feet because there's some anticipated threat, it will signal to the rest of the rabbits, quick, let's all run down to the warrens now to escape this potential danger. And so it's something I think that's really sad if you have rabbits that are kept on their own because they're such a social species. It's really hard for them to feel safe if they're on their own. And because they feel vulnerable, they're more likely to thump more frequently, say in reaction to a noise that they're unsure about. I know I had a colleague that had a pair of rabbits, and when one sadly passed away,
she noticed
while she was looking for another companion, overnight, the rabbit did start thumping really loudly in reaction to any noises because she just couldn't relax on her own. And when she did then find her a companion again, that all stopped because she felt safe. So yeah, I think it highlights just how crucial company is for rabbits.
God, you make me feel terrible because we did have a rabbit, Muffin, before we got Bee. It was kind of the trial run, would the kids look after her, et cetera, et cetera. And so he was a single rabbit in the house. So it was a house bunny.
Yeah.
To be honest, we pretended it worked. It didn't really. But, anyway. And, he used to kind of hop about a bit, but it never really felt that happy. We didn't really kind of know what to do. Though I have to say my elder daughter was brilliant at looking after him. But then we got Bee, and we didn't know whether or not, because Bee was a little puppy obviously at the time, should we introduce Bee to Muffin, who had been with us at that stage, I don't know, 2 years. But we didn't because we were too nervous, because we thought, oh my God, what if the puppy just suddenly savages this bunny? And you can imagine the kids standing there going, ah!
Yeah.
So we kept them apart. But I don't actually think that was the right thing to do, because, of course, we had like baby gates. It was very tense, actually, in our house for quite a long time. Oh, my God, don't let the dog eat the rabbit. And I don't think she would have, but we couldn't take that risk. So we had baby gates to separate them, which can't have been very nice for old Muffin. So I think we probably, and I'm sorry, we did all the wrong things, unwittingly.
This is the thing, though. It's so many people just don't realize, and you can't beat yourself up about that. But I think that's why it's great we have the chance to sort of talk about that as a message now. I think with rabbits, if I could highlight anything, it would be that need for companionship of their own kind, because it used to be very often they'd be kept with guinea pigs, and that was thought to be very acceptable. Whereas we've sort of moved on from that now and realised that a lot of the time with that combination, the guinea pig can end up being bullied, even if it's not obvious with injuries, because they're just not naturally meant to be together.
I do feel guilty about Muffin, though, because there was a bit of a time that being a house bunny, it was a bit trendy, and if I'm really honest, as parents, we couldn't quite. We weren't quite ready to have a dog, but my daughter was just so desperate to have a pet, and she went on and on and on, and we gave in. We did everything wrong, and I mean, she did look after the rabbit really, really well. I mean, never neglected, but we didn't know enough about it. We clearly didn't know enough about it, and we probably shouldn't have done it. And I do look back on that and think, God, that was a bit naff. I mean, even like Goldfish, when they were really young, I remember it was at Pets R Us, the big store, saying, I want to buy a goldfish because one had died. And the girl, I was quite sort of peed off at the time, but I absolutely admire her. She wouldn't let me have a goldfish. Because she interrogated me about, the tank, the this, the that. And she decided that, our conditions weren't up to scratch. And she wouldn't give me a goldfish. And I was kind of, oh my God, a goldfish. Because, I was brought up when you get them in a bag going home.
That's right, in the fairground.
I remember that.
And I remember going home in the car and I thought, at first, as I say, I was a bit teed off. And I thought, well, God, good for you. She works in a pet store. She did absolutely the right thing. And she was right. She was right to say that I couldn't have it. So I thought, you're a champion of goldfish. It's fun. She said that the average age of a goldfish should live for about 15 years. Is that true?
I think you're right, though. With any pet, I think if you can build in the time to do that research part first, it makes all the difference in setting you up for success and for them and your ongoing relationship too. But certainly with rabbits, they are typically bought as children's pets, aren't they? And I think just having that understanding that because they are a prey species, they tend to usually just feel comfortable when they've got all of the limbs in contact with the surface. So the idea of kind of picking them up and cuddling them as a children's pet is in conflict to what they might feel. So there's things that you can do to make that work. I mean, as a house rabbit, they've got access to a lot more space than they would if they were kept in a small hutch. But if you were looking at an outdoor setup, the things we tend to recommend is ones that you can actually walk into. So something like a kind of Wendy house. So the children can spend time with the rabbits, but they might be able to sort of sit on the floor next to them and the rabbits can enjoy that interaction and come up, but they're not being made to feel fearful by being lifted into the air. So there's all that, like I say, all that kind of research side of it. You can make things really work.
I know my niece and nephew, if they can, they will pick up a rabbit, pick up a guinea pig, pick up their tortoises, and how do they know if that's not what the animals really want?
Absolutely. I think really we should be, rather than relying on the children picking up on that and intuitively being able to read the signs, sort of talking about it with them from the rabbit's perspective and explaining that, they are a species that was preyed upon. So it's so alien for them to be in the air, but we can still sort of interact and do things with them, but by giving them choices. So look at the environment they're in. Have they got places where they can hide if they want to? And yeah, you can start to teach them about body language, like you say, something like the ears, but on its own, that's not enough. Look at the rest of what the rabbit's doing too. So if the ears are pinning back and the rest of the body looks like it's hunched and crouched and ready to flee, and they're sussing out where they can hide, then clearly that's a sign when we want to just back off and not force anything on them, because then it might get into a situation where the rabbit feels so backed into a corner that they resort as a last resort to biting, and then they learn actually that got the desired outcome. The person backed off, which is what I was trying to tell them all along. So they're more likely to use that as a tool in the future, and it kind of becomes a vicious cycle.
What about dogs and cats? How do they feel about being lifted up?
I think that really varies. I think on the whole, cats don't tend to enjoy being lifted up, but I mean, there's always ones that break the rule, and there are some that are completely comfortable with that. Dogs, again, I would say it's not a natural thing for them. So I think you'll always get individuals, if it's something they've been used to and it's always been done in a way where they've never felt threatened or fearful when in that situation, then they may be comfortable with it. But on the whole, I would say just let them be as natural as they can be. And it's, as I say, it's all about giving choices. So when they're in your arms, they've not really got the choice to move away from you if they want to. Whereas if they're on the floor, if they're near you, it's because they want to be. And I think that's nicer then, they're choosing to hang out with you.
So what's your view on doggy rucksacks? Because I only ask because Pops now, she can only walk for about 30 minutes. Any longer than that, she's done. She's an older girl now. But I've really enjoyed during lockdown is walking myself. I found a little bit of a hobby. I really enjoy it. But I want her to come with me. So what if I've seen these advertised, are they a good idea or are you a bit against them?
I'll be honest, it's not something I've ever sort of had experience of or used myself. I think you'd probably want to speak to a behaviourist about it to be able to really learn, so that whether they're comfortable or not, and then you yourself can enjoy and relax.
Yeah, I don't want to frighten her by just going, right, get in that, Pops, we're going out. Yeah, I don't think she'd like that. But she loves when we're out in the car sometimes, especially in the summer, sticks her head out the window and she loves it. So I thought, well, would she still enjoy that? But yeah, maybe it's a case of, speaking to a behaviourist and doing it slowly.
Explore that together.
Why do they do that when you're in the car? Why do they want to stick their head out the window? I mean, obviously to get fresh air, but is there something else behind it?
I don't think it's been linked to anything sort of evolutionary. I think it is just that feeling of
she loves
the wind,
yeah.
And I guess it's their personality. Some dogs absolutely hate traveling in the car and just totally go in on themselves, and that would be the last thing that they choose to do. So I think it's usually a sign that they're quite comfortable travelers when they do that. And yeah, you see their mouth opens and the tongue's lolling out, and it's
all the smells. I must just mention, because I feel as if we've left our biggies out, and it's our horses. Why do they nudge you?
So I mean, I think a lot of the time it's a clever way of them saying, come on, Mum, give me a treat. I know you've got a tasty polo that I've smelt in your pocket there. I know that's what I used to find.
So it is attention.
But there's a whole variety of reasons. There's a theme here. So yeah, sometimes you might see it if you've just finished riding and you dismount, and my horse used to have a little nudge on me then, and I think it was a way of her kind of itching after exercising and stretching out. Other times it might be a way of them expressing that they're not really sure what you're asking of them, so you might be trying to train something new, and because they're like, I don't know what you want me to do here, that's their way of expressing that, and they might nudge you. I mean, owners will view it differently. Some people will see it as a problem and something that they don't want to continue. So then you've got to make sure you're not inadvertently rewarding it with food. So by giving them the polo, so that you know, that's just reinforcing that. Whereas other people will see it as the horse might nudge them when they're grooming them, and it's a way of bonding with the horse. So and in that case, they don't necessarily want to discourage it. So it depends on that relationship and when they're doing it.
We've got some gorgeous ponies in a field where on a walk that Poppy and I go on, and there's 2 of them in one field and 2 in the opposite one. And one side always come and say hello to me, and then the other, it's like they see us coming and they walk away, and I'm talking to them, but they just walk away.
Probably prefer Coronation Street.
Yeah, that's what it is. Oh, not her again.
Just because you're someone unfamiliar, maybe they are, yeah. And I mean, sometimes even if you're a familiar person to a horse, they enjoy being out in the field so much, they think, actually, when you're coming near me, it's because you want to bring me into the stable overnight, and I'm not a fan of that. So they walk in the opposite direction.
I think I'm one of these people that always just is, with animals, I just want to say, I want to know if they love me. Because I love them. Any animal, I just you know, I'm obsessed with. So how do we recognise those signs? How do I know that Poppy dog loves me? How does Kaye know that B loves her?
I think it depends so much on the species, because as we've sort of talked through today, they've all got those unique ways of communicating with us, and also the breed, as we found. So with dogs, I think they've got so many lovely ways of showing us that they love us. They're social. They've got that need to hang out with us. So everything from, you know, that lovely greeting that they can do where their whole body goes wiggly and loose and the tail's wagging and their ears go back, and inviting you to socially interact with them, through to sort of wanting to rest with you, whether that be by your feet, or for some dogs they'll want to snuggle right into you on the sofa, through to different breeds. As I said before, some we've bred for companionship, whereas others to work for different purposes. So someone who's got a husky, they might not necessarily have been bred to enjoy the physical touch as much as something like, say, a Chihuahua. But that's not to say that they don't enjoy being with you. It's just that they've got slightly different needs. And then if we look at cats, you know, they're not as dependent on us socially, because by nature they are more of a solitary species, but they can have some really beautiful relationships with people and bond really well with people. It's just that rather than wanting to be with you all the time, they might want to dip in and out a little bit more. So they tend to prefer lots of frequent but low intensity interactions with you. And I know I've noticed that since working from home more, my cats will tend to hop up onto the desk and say, come on, give me a bit of fuss now, and rub the cheeks against my hand. But then at other parts of the day, they just want to sit on a chair near me. And then for large parts of the day, she'll go off outside and explore independently. But I still know she loves me because of those little moments.
Yeah. Because sometimes, like, Poppy would get in her bed, but put her back towards me. And I think, have you got the hump? What's wrong? Why do they do that? And then I sort of Googled it.
Oh, yeah.
And is it? I read it was like a sign of respect.
That one, I think we're probably overanalyzing there. I think that's probably.
But I need to know she's got the hump with me.
I would say it's probably she's just putting herself in the most comfortable position, and she's not thinking like we would, that by having my back to you is a sign of rejection, respect or rejection. She's I really don't think she
was just getting
thinking about it in that way. Yeah.
I'm pleased you said that.
I'll tell you, I heard something quite funny this week. I don't know, Kayleigh, whether you would agree with this or not, but it was about parrots. And I have to say, I'm not a bird person. I watched The Birds, the Hitchcock movie, when I was young, and I'm afraid it just put me off for life. But my dad had a budgie right enough he adored. But anyway, parrots, you know how there's this sort of thing about they can mimic people really well, and they often get into sweary things. And that apparently they do that because they enjoy the reaction that it gets. I mean, obviously, if a parrot is swearing, then we're all going to laugh and, we're going to be reacting to it. And that the parrot is actually doing it for a reaction. Could that be the case?
I think so. Yeah, I absolutely
Really?
think so. Yeah, I think they are reading what's happening around them at the time they're doing a certain behavior, and based on if it's a response, that's reinforcing that's going to make them do that more often. So yeah, I think that's if they're picking up on certain words, then what's happening at the time of saying that absolutely must be reinforcing it.
God. I love that.
I know, it's good, isn't it? Because I think birds are so difficult to work out.
Yeah.
I mean, furry things, we're more used to, more familiar with, but birds to me are utterly alien. I can't sort of find a point of connection. And so just when I read that story, I thought, God, that's really charming. It made me feel better about birds in general.
I think that's wonderful. Showbiz parrot.
Yeah.
Showbiz birds. Do you know what? It's been a joy. Thank you. I've learned so much today, and thank you, Kayleigh. Thank you very much, Kaye.
Thank you.
That's it for this Petcast, but there's tons more information on our website, bluecross.org.uk/podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, please feel free to share it with fellow pet lovers. And if you love it, write us a review on your podcast app. It will help people to find the series more easily. I'm Emma Barton. The Petcast is a Bengo media production for Blue Cross.